All right, everyone. Last night, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, well, I guess yesterday, technically, of course, I'm on a different time zone, was hospitalized with fever and chills. They're thinking maybe infection. They put her on an IV and I guess, antibiotics or whatever. Now she's feeling better, so she's expected to go back to the court this subsequent week. Can I just ask, though, the natural question, which is at what point does a person have to be sick more and more often, miss more and more oral arguments, miss more and more work in general before people start saying, hey, maybe it's time for them to retire? And I will say something here. Intelligent Republicans want Ginsburg to survive past the election. Trump has a very, very good chance of re-election, and at that point can replace her with somebody. If she were to croak right now or resign, it would be chaos. What it would do, I think, is hyper-energize the far right, which is already, basically gearing up to have massive turnout for Trump, so that's not a huge advantage. But it would also super-energize people even on the center left. It would give a free issue to the Democrats to run on, which is, hey, we're going to try to stop Ginsburg from being replaced. They're gonna basically do the Gorsuch thing. The Garland thing, which is like the Democrats wanted to put Garland on the Supreme Court, but it was towards the end. We had to wait and see whether Clinton or Trump was going to be elected, and so it was stalled out, and they said, no, we're going to wait till after the election because that's part of our general protocol. Trump would be under enormous pressure, having made that exact argument, to wait until after the election to see what the results are to replace Ginsburg, which, by the way, would be, according to long-standing tradition, what he should indeed do, which he himself and all the other Republicans themselves invoked as an idea. There are a lot of people on the right that would say, no, replace Ginsburg immediately, put another like Scalia on the court. If you were to do that, you could shape SCOTUS for the next decade or so. That would definitely be helpful to people who are on the right wing, especially in moral senses. But would it have a lasting positive impact, or would it be non-pragmatic because it would energize the left and cause a massive surge in the 2020 election, robbing probably the Republicans of the White House and the Senate and giving the Democrats carte blanche? I think the latter. I think it would set things up for failure. That hyper-partisan way of thinking is akin to winning a battle and losing the war in the process. I happen to oppose it. By the way, I say this as somewhat of a pragmatist on some issues on which I would align with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but we do have to ask that question. At what point is she sick often enough and incapable of continuing? She's an 86-year-old woman. She's going to be 87, I believe, fairly soon. At what point is she no longer capable of doing her job? Because she's already missing half the arguments. She was out for cancer treatment for the better part of a month earlier this year. Then recently she got sick with a stomach bug that was, a week ago, and now I guess she relapses, she has fever and chills. What if she's already dying? Because we don't get regular updates. Ruth Bader Ginsburg's people are they keep it close to the chest in regards to what's going on with her, partially out of a sense of decorum. And the SCOTUS is a little bit more distant than the executive or legislative branches tend to be, partially out of that, but partially I think that they're worried. I think they're worried she is going to randomly just not wake up in the morning. She's going to go into cardiac arrest because she's an old woman. The fact that she goes to the gym several times a week and she says stoic things like, well, whenever I'm sick, I just try to work my way through it because, otherwise I feel like shit, essentially. That's admirable. She's got a good work ethic, and even people who don't like her would never discount that. But the idea that she's invincible, the mythology built up around Ginsburg as like a god empress is basically similar to like Trump superfans talking about him. The fact is that he's a slightly overweight, 70-something man. He's not a god emperor. He's a corporate magnate who doesn't do strenuous labor. He probably couldn't dig a ditch, so to speak. Or do, outdoorsy stuff. His idea of outdoorsy stuff is he's in a country club. And so that sort of shatters the God-Emperor illusion. Likewise, Ginsburg is a wealthy, long-term political figure, judicial figure in her case. She's an old, frail woman. She can barely lift her head up. She's in her mid-80s. She makes Bernie Sanders look young and vibrant. You think about it that way. The health problems in the field, if you look at like the politicians, again, Trump goes to the hospital, supposedly had chest pains, is probably bullshit, but we'll just accept it on token. Okay, he's had health issues. Sanders has a heart attack. Biden's incoherent. Elizabeth Warren's no spring chicken at almost 72. You look at the field and you say, well, these people are having problems. And we're having a national debate over the age of presidential candidates. Why aren't we having a national debate over a SCOTUS judge? It's a very important lifetime appointed position to SCOTUS. It is an extremely important part of our government. The judiciary arguably, in part, wields more power than either of the other two branches. It's capable of instantly stymieing anything done through legislation or executive action, pending further review among itself as a body. It's got disproportionate power. It functions almost like a limited oligarchy when you think about it. It's like the Senate on steroids. I would think that it would be necessary to make sure that the people that are actually comprising SCOTUS are mentally well, are physically able to do their jobs. Like normally when somebody doesn't do their job, and they start missing work more and more and more. It's, oh, yeah, I got a call out, I'm sick. I got the sniffles. Oh, yeah, I got a call out, I got the shits. I got the Hershey squirts or something. Normally, an employer in the private marketplace would look at that and say, well, at some point, even if you've been a long-term, very dedicated, hardworking employee, I'm going to pressure you to leave. I'll give you your severance package. Here, you've got your pension, you've got, this, you've got the corporate contribution to your 401k or whatever. Here's a bunch of money. Fucking leave so that we can replace you with someone who's capable of doing the job. No offense, you've been a great worker, but you're not working. That's the problem. Ginsburg is increasingly absent from the court. She was in the wake of her cancer treatment, which is like, it's like her third or fourth time having cancer. I would think that would raise alarm bells too. Was having stuff brought to her and hearing things remotely. She wasn't even showing up for the court. She just gets back into the swing of things. A couple months later, she gets sick. She's out for a few days. Goes back in for a week. She's out for another few days. Has to go to the hospital. By the way, I think there was a 4chan thread, ironically, the other day that actually broke the news story several hours before it appeared anywhere else, actually. I think. I can't remember what the exact claim was. I think that she had been admitted to the hospital. Well, it turned out to be true hours later. So, once again, didn't we get that about Epstein's death or something like that? I thought so. And then the government had to investigate and shit. Really interesting times we live in, though. I mean, come on. Ginsburg is not well. She's been sick several times inside of a month. 3 or 4 times within the year. She's old. At some point, she's not going to recover, in other words. At that point, I mean, are they just going to cover up the fact that she's dead and they're just going to wheel her animatronic, addled corpse into the SCOTUS? Say, oh, yeah, don't trust us. She's still alive. We have a sound of like talking through a little microphone on her neck. I wouldn't put it past people. That's about all. Peace out.